She loved him with all her youth, willing to give up her dreams to stand behind him and help build his career. But just when she believed they were on the brink of happiness, he betrayed her, not just her love, but also her trust, her dignity, and the future she had gambled on. He left with someone else, abandoning her in the wreckage emotionally and financially. People said she was finished. But no one knew that in the depths of that pain, an empire was quietly being born. She once believed that if you loved someone with all your heart, you'd be loved the same in return. In the brightest years of her youth, she chose to walk beside him without calculation, without keeping anything for herself. When he was still a nobody, she worked day and night, borrowing money from wherever she could to invest in the early projects they dreamed up together. The shared dreams, the whispered promises of forever in the quiet of night once made her feel like the happiest woman in the world. But everything fell apart faster than she ever imagined. As the company began to gain recognition, as success started to bloom, he began to change. She turned a blind eye to the late nights, the strange looks, the careless words. Until one day, the truth could no longer hide. He was cheating, and not just in love. He had secretly cut her out of the company's ownership through cunning legal maneuvers, turning the woman who was once his partner in life and business into an outsider. She didn't just lose the man she loved. She lost everything she had poured herself into: her trust, her reputation, her identity. The media reduced her to the ex-girlfriend who got betrayed. In the startup world, she became a cautionary tale, someone to pity or mock. In the days that followed, she disappeared. No one knew where she went, what she was doing, or even if she was still alive. She had thought about ending it all, because what was left to hold on to? He had taken everything. Even her. But in that rock-bottom moment, in the place where she thought she had died, something began to stir. Faint at first, like a fragile breath, but real. And it would never fade again. She disappeared from every spotlight, every headline. The people who once praised her now turned away. The handshakes that once promised a future had grown cold. But she no longer wanted to be seen. She lived quietly in a tiny rented room on the outskirts of the city, her days repeating in a cycle of crying and sleeping, drained of tears, drained of faith. Every time she woke up, only one question echoed in her mind: why me? Then one day, while wandering through an old bookstore, trying to escape reality, she stumbled upon a worn book about women in leadership. Inside, notes scribbled in red ink caught her eye: no one is coming to save you. Either you rise on your own, or stay underfoot forever. She took it home. She read. Then read again. And for the first time in months, she didn't cry when she woke up. That marked the beginning of her rebirth, quiet, steady, but full of resolve. She started over from scratch, relearning everything: business skills, strategy, leadership, emerging technologies. There was no one left to back her, no shoulder to lean on. Old connections avoided her. Former partners smirked when they saw her attending small workshops and low-profile events. But she didn't stop. At first, she freelanced, offering consulting on small projects for modest pay, accepting any opportunity to gain experience and save up capital. In the evenings, she blogged about her journey, not dramatized, not loud, just the raw, honest story of someone who had survived betrayal. Strangely, people began to listen. From those writings, a small community began to form. Women who had been deceived, who had fallen apart, started reaching out, not to be rescued, but to learn how to rise the way she was rising. And that unexpectedly became the foundation of something much greater, an empire born from pain and unshakable resilience. She was no longer the woman who walked through pain with her head down. The quiet months of rebuilding had shaped her into someone entirely new, sharper, more clear-eyed, and, most importantly, no longer in need of anyone's validation. She realized that what hurt the most wasn't just his betrayal, it was the fact that she had handed over her entire life to someone else, without saving any part of it for herself. Her awakening didn't come from some dramatic event, but from the long, grinding days of work, of trial and error, of falling and getting back up. One day, she looked at herself in the mirror and, for the first time, didn't see a victim. She saw a creator. She was no longer the betrayed woman, now she was a guide. Her personal blog grew into a sharing platform, then a community, and eventually a full-fledged brand for education and startup support tailored to women. She officially named it Ashes, a word others once used to describe her after the fall. From an unknown freelancer, she became a speaker. From tiny workshops, she rose to major stages, not inspiring with polished words, but with real scars. Every story she told carried a piece of her truth, and that was what made people believe. The ones who used to laugh at her fell silent. The ones who turned their backs began reaching out with partnership offers. But the biggest change was within her. She no longer had anything to prove. She didn't need to beat him. She didn't need to reclaim what she had lost, because now, she had something far greater, herself. The career, the community, the recognition, they were outcomes, no longer the end goals. Her mission now was to plant strength in others, the kind she once wished someone had given her. And for the first time, after so many days spent merely surviving, she felt like she was truly living. When the Ashes empire began appearing in major business magazines, when every panel she hosted was packed to capacity, and when investment funds started sending partnership offers, he came back. The man who had once left her in the ruins showed up again. This time, he didn't have that arrogant look in his eyes. He stood before her filled with hesitation and pleas. He admitted he'd been wrong, said he'd lost himself chasing success and now regretted everything. She listened, not with anger, not with tears. Just an oddly calm gaze. There was nothing left in her to break anymore. Every shattered piece had already been gathered and reborn into someone new. He said he wanted to work with her again, because the two of us once created something magical. But what he didn't understand was this: the magic was never the two of them. It had always been her, from the blind devotion of the past to the fierce clarity of now. She declined, not with drama or bitterness, just a quiet sentence. I'm no longer the woman you left behind. And you're no longer someone who gets to walk beside me. Coming back didn't mean going back to the past. It meant facing it with the calm of someone who had already made peace. She saw the ones who once mocked her, pitied her, underestimated her. But she didn't need apologies. Her very presence, strong, successful, and free, was the answer. The only one that mattered. She didn't come back for revenge. She came to close the chapter. And when she did, the door shut softly, no sound, no drama. Because inside her, a new story had already begun. One where the pain wasn't a burden anymore, but the foundation. And she knew the most extraordinary part was still ahead. Since closing that old door, she stepped into a completely new life, one no longer defined by the labels victim or the one left behind. She didn't live to prove anything, nor did she chase validation. Her life now revolved around lasting values, knowledge, community, and the generations of women rediscovering themselves through her story. Ashes was no longer just a startup brand, it had become a movement. Thousands of women who had once been broken, dismissed, or robbed of their dreams found one another there. No one came to weep, they came to learn how to rise. She didn't play the hero. She simply told the truth, offered real tools, and planted a quiet belief in them. I was once where you are. Her career kept growing, but it was no longer her sole pursuit. She made time for herself now, reading, gardening, writing about the road she'd walked. Sometimes, she still thought about the past, the people, the years. But not with sadness. Only with gratitude. Because without those old wounds, the free woman she had become would never have existed. There was a new man, once. He didn't come to save her, and he didn't need her admiration. They met as two whole, independent people, neither one living in the shadow of the other. And whether that relationship would last or not, she knew she'd be okay. Because above all, she had learned the most valuable lesson: live for yourself, and let love, if it comes, be a gift, never the foundation. She kept on living, with brighter eyes and steadier steps. And every day, something inside her continued to grow, like life springing from the ashes. Not to return to who she once was, but to become someone the world had never seen before. And then, on quiet mornings, when sunlight slipped through the window and birds sang without warning, she smiled. Not because of anything grand, but simply because she was still here. Still living. A life that wasn't perfect, but one she had chosen. No one was there to lead her by the hand, and she no longer needed anyone to lean on. She stood firm because she knew what it meant to hit rock bottom and climb her way back with her own two hands. From the ashes, she didn't just rebuild an empire. More importantly, she rebuilt herself. No longer a reflection of someone else's expectations, no longer a shadow of old dreams. She was herself, whole, strong, and radiant in a way entirely her own. To those who have been broken, you don't need saving. You only need to believe that starting again is still possible. Don't fear the ashes. Sometimes, that's exactly where you'll find the fire that was always yours.